thank you all for coming. You know, we all have busy schedules, and our candidates have busy schedules, so it really means so much to us that you have all taken time out of your schedules to come and attend this candidates' night. Can you hear me okay?
No.
No? Okay. Now can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. As I was saying, we thank you all for coming out tonight in the midst of your daily busy schedules. We'd like to, first of all, thank Pastors Aaron and Dave for allowing us to use this beautiful space. Well, there are the pastors there, two pastors, and we all have comfortable chairs and seats. Yes. The bathrooms are right down on the hallway, just outside the vestibule here. We ask that you do not bring food into the nave or sanctuary, however you want to call it. Please put your cell phones on vibrate. If I don't get a chance to mention it again, I hope you all know that this Thursday at 7 o'clock, Senator Bernie Sanders will be at the Richmond Auditorium, which is wonderful. Our evening is going to be broken up into 3 segments. The first segment, we ask you to please introduce yourselves. And if you might notice, and I'm sorry that some of you did not receive emails. We're going to have to do better about that. I'm not sure how that happened. But we tried to send out a list of issues that have been foremost in the whole Richmond City politics. And we're asking you to take 2 or 3 of those issues that you feel very strongly about and maybe say whether you are sort of for it or against it. We're limiting your speaking time to just 3 minutes. I know that's very little, but we have so many candidates. And let's see, where's our timer? Dave? Over here is our timer, and he'll lift up the sign that says 30 seconds when you just have 30 seconds left. Right next to him is Jim Hansen, who, while we hear you talking, if any of our residents here find that they want to formulate a question for you in the 3rd segment, he's going to pass out cards and pencils, and when you finish, if you want him to pick it up, just raise the card, but we will collect them after the 2nd segment anyway. In answering and in introducing yourselves, we ask you to be brief, and please speak positively about yourselves and not sort of devolve into any attacks on any of your co-presenters. In the 2nd segment, we now move to the future and 10 years in the future. And we'd like you to move beyond political platitudes and be very specific about your proposals to make Richmond a better place over the next 10 years and beyond, even beyond your terms in office. In the 3rd segment, we will be reading the questions that people have written down for you. We're asking the audience to please direct your questions to a particular candidate. Okay, having said that, and where's Liz Bittner? Well, one of our members here, there she is with her hand raised. She baked the cookies that are out there. So please feel free to get up at any time to go out residents who feel very strongly about our wonderful city of Richmond. And one of the key, over here, Vinay Pickle is somebody who was very instrumental in pulling this evening together. But the main person is May Clark. And I think she just ran out of the room. But anyway, thank you all for coming. We're all looking forward to whatever can be done to continue making our city a wonderful, beautiful place like it is. And we start with the knowledge and the belief that all of you are here because you care about Richmond. And we thank you for that. Okay, so let's start the timer right now. And we'll start with Damian King. And please also let us know which office you're running for, whether it's mayor or city council. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, my name is Damian King. I'm 37 years old. I am a lifelong Richmond resident. Thank you so much. I'm running for a 4-year full-term seat for city council. One of the reasons why I decided to run is that I think it's extremely important for the city of Richmond to have accurate representation. My concern is that there are some residents in our community who aren't as civically engaged as many of you all are, and I think it's extremely important for those individuals to have representation and for them to see that they have, and that it's in their best interest to have an equitable stake in their community. I think that one of the things that can help transition or continue the direction that Richmond has been going in is to ensure that every resident that desires to call Richmond home see themselves as a stakeholder. And I believe there are a couple of issues that are extremely important. I'm at a little disadvantage because I didn't get the form to fill out, so please bear with me. So regarding community policing and policies, I think it's extremely important to ensure that we have culturally competent public safety policies. And I think that when we think about the past, when Richmond was plagued with severe crime and we had a bad reputation throughout the Bay Area, I think that that is changing, although the reputation kind of still remains. And I don't want people to feel as if they're in some kind of danger, and that the way that we talk about policing, it's not just about having more police on the street. It's about services, it's about programs, it's about addressing people's barriers so that they don't become as susceptible to committing crimes and making poor decisions. So it's about the messaging. I think that's extremely important, and that's one of the things that I will work towards. I oppose at the casino at Point Malati, although I wasn't on the council or anything like that. I was absolutely, as a resident, I was opposed to it. And the Chevron refinery expansion, as they presented the expansion originally, obviously, I believe the consensus was I was opposed to it as well. And again, so I think it's important for us to have adequate public housing. I think it's extremely important for us to have culturally competent public safety policies and increase business development so that we can bring jobs to our community. And also hard skills development is extremely important, because what's the point of bringing jobs to our community if our residents don't have the skill set to take advantage of those opportunities? Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Henry Washington, a lifelong resident of Richmond. I want to thank the Upper Rheem Neighborhood Watch and also the Living Hope Neighborhood Church for having us, as well as all the candidates that are here on tonight. I've been here in Richmond since I was born right up the street at Old Brookside Hospital in 1967. My grandfather served the city in 1941 when he became Richmond's first African-American policeman. My Uncle Lonnie Washington served 16 years on the city council here in Richmond. I got involved in politics around my love or my desire to work with social justice issues. And as I walked around anti-gun violence and education reform, I began to see that policies continue to be set, but they don't represent the the broader culture in Richmond. I've been serving Richmond in an unofficial capacity for quite some time. I planted a church in Richmond in 2008 on the south side of Richmond, and it's doing well. And we've been going out, meeting and greeting during this candidacy a lot of people who seem to be fed up with the way that local Richmond politics are going. My agenda is a four-pronged agenda. First, I would like to see a higher level of decorum and professionalism portrayed by our local leaders, especially on the council. Number two, I would that public safety would continue to go as well as it has been, which means that we have to continue to build the relationship between city government and the local populace. Number three, that Richmond residents might have access to clean, affordable housing that's well maintained. And number four, our economics, the future of us bringing business and the business we have thriving largely depends on how well this city council gets along and works towards one end and one goal, and that is the health of Richmond, fiscally and also amongst the public safety. Thank you for this space. Excuse me? How about Chevron? What about Chevron?
We're not going to have any questions now. Please write down your question and it'll be addressed in the third segment. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Freer. I am also a lifelong resident of Richmond. I was born in Martinez. 3 days later, here I am. I'm still here in Richmond. I have a wife and 4 children. 3 of my children have gone on to college. One's graduated, the other 2 are finishing up. I have a daughter, she's in 11th grade. I've been married to my wife 25 years, and I work here in Richmond. I am elated to have the opportunity to be considered as a candidate for the City Council. I'm so happy for this opportunity. This is really America at its best. We all are coming out, we all are here and interested in how our city runs, functions, and how it's looked upon by the rest of the world. The world has gotten small, and our city needs to really take advantage of all the opportunities that it has. We are centrally located. Our city has beautiful prospects, beautiful opportunities for other businesses that wants to come here. I, again, am looking forward to having the opportunity to serve you, the citizen. Again, I've worked here in Richmond all my life. I'm 49 years old. I feel like a 39-year-old person. I got out today and did some running around and walking, and I feel real good. I am running for the 2-year seat. In 2 years, we can make some change, but I'll be back here in 2 years asking for your vote also again, win or lose. And I look forward to those opportunities. These forums have been really helpful to not only myself, but to the rest of the community at large, and I just look forward to the opportunity. The past 10 years in Richmond, we've had some challenges. I tell you, we've all lived all the way through it. We've made it all the way to this point where we see some changes, but there's quite a bit of ways to go, and I'd like to be a part of that future, that ability to move forward, to move ahead, to move past our problems, to regain respect around the rest of the community. I look forward to bringing new businesses downtown Richmond. Chevron, that issue is, I'm a good neighbor to Chevron. Chevron's a good neighbor for us. But we need to make sure that they are held accountable for all things. And the City Council, and I applaud them for making all those things happen for the latest, their revitalization. And again, the future Richmond could be greater. I'd invite Chevron to build a big building downtown Richmond so that the community can have instant access to Chevron for job opportunities or questions about issues and things like that. There's plenty of opportunities for things. But keep your eyes on me. I have some great ideas. Thank you.
y'all doing? Good. My name is Javonka Beckles, and I'm currently the vice mayor running for re-election for the 3-year seat. And a little bit about me. I was a military brat. My stepfather was in the Air Force, and I had the wonderful opportunity of moving around to different places. And it was a wonderful experience because it really taught me to appreciate diversity. It taught me to appreciate change. It taught me how to respect my community, how to respect myself and others. When you live on military bases, some of you may know it's very strict, but it's all about community, and that's one of the things that I bring to you. When my spouse and I moved here, my wife and I moved here in 2005. We've both been working in Richmond since 2000, so I've been working in Richmond for 14 years, and we have seen an incredible transformation in Richmond, and it's beautiful, and we have seen so many trees go up since we first started living in Richmond. We have seen so many community gardens. We have seen the streets fixed. We have seen lights changed and fixed, and we have seen blight go down. So for the past 10 years, there's been a lot of good happening in Richmond. I work with children and children's mental health right there on 41st Street in McDonald. And the reason I ran for city council in the first place definitely wasn't for the fame, definitely wasn't for the money, because there is no money in this. But what motivated me was my work with them and healing these children in our community. Because we know that when children are healed, then there's hope for our future. But it was not enough to just heal the children that come into my clinic, because we can do all the work we're doing, which is a wonderful thing. But if the community isn't healed, then all that work is in vain. And so my passion is healing our community and continuing the wonderful progress that we've made. Community policing is one of the things I am very familiar with, being a military brat. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I would like to, what's important to me. Foreclosure relief through our Richmond Cares program, because we didn't get any. Was that a stop? Or
no, got about 15 seconds.
15 seconds. Oh, pardon me. Because when people get relief, since we didn't get any relief from Wall Street, then we all have to take action at a local level. And what we're doing in Richmond is getting so much attention nationwide, because we are tackling very difficult challenges in a very innovative and progressive way. And thank you so much.
Good evening, and I also want to thank the church and the Neighborhood Watch Group for hosting us tonight, and all the other candidates and everybody for participating. My name is J.L. Myrick, and I'm happy to be the only candidate younger than Damian King up here, and I'm a current member of the City Council, running to finish my term for the next 2 years, to finish the work that we've begun. And so there's a lot to do, and one of the main things that first motivated me to get involved was figuring out how we can better provide services for our young people in Richmond and make sure that they feel more engaged in our political process, and make sure that they feel more engaged, period, and make sure that they feel like they have an opportunity. And so that's why, as a candidate 2 years ago, I championed the idea of a scholarship program for every kid in the city of Richmond. That's now a reality. It's going to be called the Richmond Promise. It will be funded at least $25 million for the next 10 years, so that every young person in Richmond has money for college. And I think that's something that's going to be a game changer for years to come, because what it means is there's no more excuses, and it means that the community expects every young person to do well. The question about Richmond over the past 10 years, listen, there's no question, nobody can argue that Richmond has made progress and is doing much better today than Richmond was 10 years ago in every single measurable way, whether you're talking about economically, whether you're talking about public safety, on a whole range of issues, whether you're talking about the environment, a whole range of things. The challenge, there's a number of challenges that are still before us though, but the one challenge that seems to encompass all of it is, can we get our politics to a place where it is once again professional and civil? Will we get to a place where our city council is a deliberative, serious, professional legislative body, or will it continue to be about theater? And so that's one thing where, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I'm going to continue to represent. I'm going to continue to be about policy first and about working with all of my colleagues. If you look over my past 2 years on the council, you'll see that I've done major things with people with all over the council. I'm willing to work with anybody in order to achieve a goal, because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be about political gamesmanship, and it shouldn't be about picking sides and making enemies. It should be about achieving something for the people of Richmond. So that's what I want to continue doing over the next 2 years. We really need to get our politics to a place where it is once again serious and where we can take advantage of all the opportunities that are before us as a community. And it's something that we will need to work together in order to do. And I hope you will support me to work with this council in order to do that over the next 2 years. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Charles Ramsey. I've served the last 21 years on the West Contra Costa Unified School District serving this community. And I want to thank the Upper Rheem Neighborhood Watch and the Living Hope Neighborhood Church and all of you for attending tonight. It's exciting to see this many people out on a Monday evening hearing about ways and means and how everyone on this body would like to serve you and make a difference. And so I appreciate having the opportunity to be here. First and foremost, I've been really puzzled and surprised at the level of negative campaigning taking place in this race. I've seen it and heard about it, but being involved in it is just, it's really surprising. And I've tried to publicly say that as an individual, I don't like the acts that I'm seeing going on against Eduardo or Javanka or even Gail. But at the same time, I don't like when other people then start doing it to other people like myself or Al or Court or anybody else. I think it's going to create a level of issues when anyone comes in to serve. I just think it's unnecessary. And I'll be the first to tell you, no matter what happens here, I forgive people and I forget, and I tend to say I'll give people a second chance to try to support people. I had an event for Javanka last year, the Richmond Pride event. I even took him to the doctor's one time and picked him when I saw him walking on the street. So I try to be respectful. So I am disappointed that I see candidates now doing the same thing that I see people say the corporate interests are doing. And so I hope that after it's all over, people can just try to represent your interests, because I think that's what's the most important thing. I think looking over the last 10 years, yeah, there's a lot of good things that have taken. I think Richmond is made some strides, but the reality is the fiscal condition of the city's really in dire strait, just like the school district was. And we need somebody who understands that they're going to have to really make some hard choices. And if Measure U doesn't pass, and I'm supporting Measure U, the city's really going to face some more difficult problems. And I think those are critical. So you say the last 10 years, the first thing at the top of the list, if we look at this agenda handout, was the near bankruptcy. Well, I wouldn't say the city's near bankruptcy, but they have a lot of challenges coming forward. And I think code enforcement is another big issue. I don't think that we can reduce any funding there, because when blight happens, it creates other issues and other problems. And I think what we've done in the school district is taken away a lot of blight. We had no expulsions the last couple of years. We have truancy down. And I want to see the same neighborhood resolve happen in these communities. So those are two areas that they had asked about what I have a particular passion and interest in. And I feel that I'm here to address those issues, and I appreciate the opportunity to answer questions tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting all of us to participate in this forum. My name is Eduardo Martinez, and like Charles Ramsey, I am running for the 4-year seat. Even being married for 31 years to a fantastic woman, I'm happy to report that I am the youngest member up here. And that's because I'm young at heart. And I stay that way by working with kids who remind me what it's like to be innocent, and who remind me that we need to listen to one another and to hear what we say and to support those who are weakest. So I've lived in Richmond for 25 years, actually longer than that, but I've worked for the people in Richmond. And I've done that by serving on many committees. I've served on the Rec and Parks Commission. I've served on the West Contra Costa Unified School District Budget Advisory Committee, on the Point Malati Advisory Committee, and I'm currently on the City Planning Commission. So I've worked really hard to make sure that Chevron builds the best possible environment, and I will continue to do that. I think that Richmond is much better now, and as J.L. said, there's no denying. Richmond is moving forward. We are becoming better and better as a city and as a community. And I want to build on that progress. That's why I'm running. I believe that the best way to attract new jobs and businesses is to make Richmond a better and attractive place to live and to work. I envision a greener Richmond, free of blight. That means through urban gardening and the greening of our streets by planting more trees and by cleaning up our toxic sites. We will work towards reducing blight, getting rid of tagging, abandoned houses, illegal dumping. So we have a lot of work to do, and we need to work as a team to make it happen. Richmond can support multiple small businesses, and I believe that we can do that by creating neighborhood nodes where people can do their shopping by walking to the shops or bicycling to the shops. We need to have more people out on the streets. I'm also proposing a education commission so that the city will have more influence on what happens with the school district within the city of Richmond. So lots of things to do, and I hope that you vote for me so that I can help Richmond move forward. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Butt. I am not a candidate for City Council. I'm a candidate for Mayor. You have elected me to five terms to City Council. I'm in the middle of my 5th term as we speak. I'm an architect by day and a City Council member by night. I think probably the most important quality that a mayor can bring to the city is the ability to work with disparate groups and disparate individuals to get something done. 2 of my endorsers, George Miller and the Contra Costa Times, both cited my ability to work with disparate groups to get things done as the primary reason for their endorsement. Probably the best example, and a recent one that you all are familiar with, is the Chevron modernization project. I worked on it for 3 years, and just this past July, the City Council adopted the most strenuous regulatory permit probably for any refinery in the United States in history. At the same time, we entered a $1 million community benefits agreement with Chevron. As far as I know, it's the largest community benefits agreement of anything like this in the United States. One of the things you asked about is, what is our plan for Richmond for the next 10 years? Well, I have a plan, but it's not really my plan, it's your plan. It's called the Richmond General Plan 2030. And hundreds of you played a role in writing that plan. All the City Council did at the end of the day was adopt it. But that plan has 14 elements in it. And it's not just a land use plan, it's a plan for a healthy Richmond, it's a plan for economic development, and it's a plan for many other parts of life in Richmond. And if you're not familiar with it, it's on the city's website. I urge you to go take a look at it. Over the last couple of years, we have started to adopt many parts of it. Just a couple of examples. One was for the city to join a community choice aggregation, that is to buy and sell green energy to the city. So we fulfilled that particular part of the plan. We joined Marine Clean Energy. We now offer electrical energy to both residents and commercial users in Richmond that is twice as green as PG&E and costs less. We also adopted a parks master plan, we adopted a bicycle and pedestrian master plan, and so on. So that is my plan for the city of Richmond, and it's all about quality of life. And my goal over the next 10 years is to keep going back to that plan that all of you play a role in writing and continue adopting every piece of it until we get there, and at that time we'll go do another plan for 2050 or something like that. So thank you again for the opportunity. It's good to be here tonight. By my count, this is the third to last forum. We're all getting pretty good at this now and having more fun than ever. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Al Martinez. I'm running for the 4-year candidacy for City Council member. I've been a Richmond resident for over 27 years. I've been a police officer here in Richmond back in the 70s and 80s. Matter of fact, I lived out on Tulare Street, 32nd and Tulare, as a police officer. So I'm from this neighborhood. I know this neighborhood like I know all Richmond. As a police officer, I had the privilege to serve the entire city with law enforcement that is now coming of age. I was one of the first pioneers in community policing, to get out of my car, to talk to the neighbors, to talk to the businesses, to talk to the individuals on the street instead of driving by them, to talk to the children, to stop by and talk to the teachers, talk to people at work as they go, stop at bar. Which now is availing, which is why Richmond, the police department, in its many efforts, is so successful in the crime rate and the reduction of the crime. And we have a lot to be thankful for. We want to maintain that. I want to maintain that. So that's one of my large issues, is to maintain community policing here at the Richmond Police Department. I think we're forerunners, not only in the community, in the state, but in the nation. To have crime reduction on the verge of where it's been is phenomenal. Being a police officer, I can tell you, it's phenomenal. And to maintain it, I want to maintain those efforts. And it's not just the police, but it's community policing. It's certainly the Office of Neighborhood Safety. It's chaplaincy work with the chaplains. I'm a police, I volunteer right now as a chaplain for the Richmond Police Department. I'm the chairman of that group. And we work hand in hand with police officers, with the community, helping them bring that gap together and make it more formidable so we can be out there and seeing the successes of what we're seeing now today. I'm also a very compassionate leader, as I have been for the United States Postal Service over the last 29 years, just retired. In the last 13 years as your postmaster right here in Richmond. So I'm used to executive leadership. I know what leadership, compassionate leadership is all about, with integrity, with accountability, and certainly with compassion. We have to respect one another. I'm not saying that at the City Council leadership. It's why I was approached to be a leader for the City Council. It's why I gave thought and prayer to be your leader, to make a difference where I did in the police department, where I did at the United States Postal Service as a postmaster, 3 different cities, to make a difference where I did at the Richmond Police Commission, where I was there for 4 years, and I chaired the police commission. So I know about leadership, healthy leadership, bonding leadership that works as a team. And when we talk about team, it's not just a formidable term, but with team, everybody works together. Together, we have to work together. I think Attorney Ramsey said it best, is that I don't like what's going on. I'm an elder, a church elder here in this city. I don't like what's going on, but people are going to be people. And at the end of the day, I think everybody here respects one another. The thing is, can we work together as a team? I could lead a team of high-powered individuals, teams that are very passionate about what they want to do. And that's what we need, and that's what's lacking right now. Once again, my name is Al Martinez. I'd love to be your selection for the City Council for the next 4 years. Thank you so much.
about 12 years. I moved down here to attend law school. After law school, went back to school for my business degree in MBA in business. So I've run a small business consulting, and I've also worked with several non-profits and small businesses all over the country. We're here today because we have some issues. There's some progress we've made in Richmond. We all agree on that. But let's not get stuck on some of those progress. Let's look at some facts here. We have over 10% unemployment in Richmond. Our mall is in bankrupt. We have several commercial spaces all over Richmond that are not filled. So we need to begin to have a conversation as to where we go from here. This election is not about the past, it's about the future. Where do we want Richmond to be? That future for your kids, for your grandkids, and for yourselves. That's what we are all here for. I think the three candidates here running for mayor, we all agree that we need new leadership. That's what we agree. There's no argument about that. So now the question is who's ready to lead Richmond moving forward? The 21st century is not what it used to be. It's not, the businesses are changing all over the world. So where do we stand in Richmond? How do we tackle these issues that are affecting our youth? Over 35% unemployment that we have here in Richmond. How do we address that? That's what this election is about. How do we deal with Chevron at the same time attract businesses into Richmond? That's what this election is about. We can't fight with our businesses that are coming to Richmond, but we need to work with them, hold them responsible, at the same time attract more businesses to Richmond. I'm one that believes that businesses that come here should be treated like a tenant. They are our tenant, and we should treat them like that and work with them, address some of the flaws they have, and then deal with that. But when you do that, you attract more businesses. Businesses look at you like you're serious about the future of Richmond. I'm running against two men here. I think you all know them. They've been in office for over 60 years. It's not a joke. We have to be serious about them. They're not losing their job on the city council. We need a new mayor that can move this community forward. It's not about them. It's about the future of Richmond. That's what this election is about. And that's why I'm running for mayor. And I ask you to support me in November to make this a reality. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gail McLaughlin, running for the four-year seat. And over the past 10 years that I've served on the council, 8 years as mayor, it has been my total privilege and honor to be part of Richmond's transformation. It has been a collective effort with all segments of the community participating, and we have together risen from a history. We're in the process, as I'd say, of rising from a history of scarcity and despair. We're showing we're a community that has the strength and the courage and the boldness to come up with those really important, innovative solutions to our chronic problems, and that we can define our own destiny. Our general plan is a perfect example of that. We are defining our own destiny going forward in Richmond. We have gotten crime down dramatically. I mean, we have the lowest homicide number in 33 years, a 66% reduction in homicides since 2007 when I started as mayor. And we did this thanks to community-involved policing and thanks to our prevention programs. And in terms of community-involved policing, many of us were advocating for this a long time before we actually got Chief Magnus and got a community-involved police force in place. And luckily, we hired the right person. The city manager hired the right person thanks to our advocating, and now we have that wonderful community-involved police force working with community, working with violence prevention programs. We've got the job training, the recreation programs. All this contributed to our reduction in crime. Our property crimes as well are down 20%. So we want all crimes to go down even further. Another thing that I am very, very proud of is the way we have held Chevron accountable. We held them accountable to paying its fair share of taxes, a $114 million tax settlement from Chevron. That, again, because of full community advocacy, public pressure. We got the new Chevron project thanks to years of public pressure going back to 2009, where the courts shot down the previous environmental report because it was inadequate. So now we have a new project. We need to make sure Chevron is held accountable to building the cleanest, safest refinery it possibly can. We are a leading city for environmental initiatives. We have the CARES program. We're standing up to Wall Street too, because our homeowners, our struggling homeowners, have a right to stay in their homes. And we as elected officials should find those innovative solutions like the CARES program to make sure that they have a reduction in their principal so they can stay in their homes. So I'm running. The reason I'm running is because I want to continue to work with all of you to really continue our transformation and be that model city that we already are. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Nat Bates. I've been your city councilman for 35 years. Twice I've served as your mayor. Where's May? I want to know, was it your idea to sit me between Councilman Bouzet and Mayor McLaughlin and out of peacemaker? Well, let me get to the point. I think the question had to do with the various issues that you had listed here. First, community policing, I support it 100%. Always have supported it. As a former retired Alameda County probation officer, I know the importance of police work. The casino at Point Malati, I supported that. I thought it was a wonderful idea when we were going to get something like $20 million a year, and we were going to get over 20,000 to 25,000 employees. Individuals that didn't have to have a college degree, they could have gone in and made a decent job and a decent salary. Chevron refinery, I supported that in 2009, and I supported it just this past 2014. The Chevron tax lawsuit negotiation, I supported that, contrary to some of my opponents who said that I did not, but I did. The plastic bag, I listed a double. The plastic bag is long. There's no question about it. I supported it. I don't support those bike lanes. And I'll tell you why. These lanes were put in without the consultation of the communication with the citizens. If you drive down Barrett Avenue, you find two lanes. One for, and the fourth, the fifth, the third, and fourth lane is bike lane. Nobody's using those bike lanes. It's a traffic jam, and bicycles are nowhere to be seen. What we should have done, had this council and the mayor consulted with the public, we should have done what they did in Oakland and Berkeley. Make both of those two lanes and have a lane next to the curb, both bicycle and automobile. You serve the same purpose. But it's stupid to have a lane devoted to bikes when there are no bikes. The second one is public housing in Hacienda. I supported the public housing in Hacienda. It's a terrible idea that we have our citizens over there in disarray and in infested conditions, and we have council members that don't seem to have a compassion to do anything about it. Foreclosure, another dumb idea. The foreclosure, not one piece of property has been foreclosed in the city of Richmond, yet we have had to pay the price to something like $1 million when we go out and try to bond because of Wall Street, they jack up the interest rate on us. Code enforcement, I support that 100%. It's important. And say other. Yeah, I support other Natalie for mayor. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Corky Bouzet. I've been on your city council for 4 years. And in the last year, we've had a little ups and downs there. But let me go past your charts. First thing, community policing. Let me start off with community policing. I am the person that sat on the board
and I am the person that voted for Chris Magnus to become your chief of police. I've been on community policing since community policing started, and if any of you have been around here as long as I am, Nat Bates, you'll know the name Chuck Bennett. He's the one that started turning this city around. But there is a problem in our community policing. You heard the mayor talk about the crime down. A lot of people here are talking about all the crime down. It's true. But you know what? The crimes in home break-ins are up. Chris Magnus himself had his home broken into, if you know anything about North and East, before he moved up to Carriage Hills. We need to do something about lowering that. We cannot put our head in the sand like an ostrich. Casino at Point Melody. The casino at Point Melody, if you recall, the mayor, myself, Tom Budd, and they all got money from the card clubs to make sure the casino didn't go at Point Melody. I was one of the ones that was against it. Chevron refinery expansion. Once again, here's why Richmond has problems. Because we can't sit at the table and work out our differences. From 2009, we've had that place closed down. A professional group of people should be able to sit at the table and work it out. If you went to court, the judge would say, go away, see if you guys can come to agreement, and then come back. Chevron tax lawsuit. You know, I have a question mark here. What do you want from the lawsuit? We hired an attorney. Everybody voted for it. So we got to wait for the attorney to come back and tell us what to do. So I don't know what you're asking for there, but I'll wait to hear from the attorneys and see what they say. Plastic bag ordinance. That's a state law, federal law just about now. And so it speaks for itself, and that's the way it has to be. Bike lanes. I'm going to tell you something. On my way over here, I was a few minutes late, and I'll tell you why. Because I live on 33rd Street, and I tried to cross McDonald Avenue. Nobody could get across McDonald Avenue because it was a one lane. And a car ran into the other car. We've had more accidents on McDonald Avenue since we've cut it down to one lane. I think that our main arteries like McDonald Avenue, Barrett, and 23rd Street, we need to make sure we get those squared away. Hacienda. Hacienda, ladies and gentlemen, you want to see it? There's a lady with the bed bugs. This city don't care about the Hacienda. Watch city council meetings. I'm the only one speaking on it. Marine energy. Well, you know what? Tom Budd claims all the money we're making. I haven't seen it yet. Code enforcement. I did not do anything to hurt code enforcement. I supported. The mayor said code enforcement lost money. All departments were cut by 17% because, ladies and gentlemen, you do not have a money problem in the city of Richmond. You have a spending problem. And I will not, let me say it again, I will not vote for Measure U. I'm doing flyers right now, and the reason why is because Measure U does not have a sunset. That tax is for you for the rest of your life. So if you decide you want taxes for the rest of your life, I mean, you can go ahead and vote for it, but I'm putting it out there. If they bring it back and give us a sunset, 3 years, 5 years, go back and look at it, fine. But when Bates becomes the mayor and this council turns around and businesses start coming in, you're going to see our coffers up top. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. I think we all felt the sincerity in all of your voices. The second segment now actually deals with the future, the 10 years in the future, and we're asking that everybody wants a better Richmond. So if you don't mind, no sort of political platitudes, no rhetoric. We want specific ideas, specific plans that you have that once you get in office, you would like to see implemented. And please be specific about what it is that you see happening in Richmond. Again, thank you for being brief, and please now be even a little more brief, because once we get through your statements, then we'll get to hear from the audience. Yes?
Is it possible for the timekeeper to maybe wave or something? Because it's hard to hear the bell, and I think some people get talking because they didn't hear it.
Okay, so Dave Schultz, our timekeeper.
Maybe just wave your sign when it's so, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
The 30 seconds is I'm just counting down the time, and when you have 30 seconds left, I'm just trying to warn you, but I'll wait some more.
Is this going to be 2 minutes each?
Yes, 2 minutes, please. 2 minutes, no more than 2, because you've already introduced yourselves.
Right, so
we still want to have time for the audience. We're going to have prepared questions on the cards, but after we finish those questions, then we can allow the audience themselves to speak.
So,
Yes?
Sure, over here. I was just thinking for the time, I wouldn't, after you did your 30 seconds, I wouldn't then, when it's up, hold 30-second sign. Again, that would be confusing, I think. So maybe just raise your hand or do one of these or something.
Yeah. Or ring it loud.
Do this.
Just keep it ringing.
Okay. So 2 minutes this time.
2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll start with, and I want to say, it was so nice, but some of us didn't know some of you. So it's really great to hear you speak and hear a little bit about your history and your connection here in the neighborhood. Okay, Damien?
Again, my name is Damien King. The next 10 years, one of the things that I really want to do is demystify this whole process. I grew up in the Iron Triangle, the hood, where a lot of the crime and a lot of things that people's reputation, the poor reputation that Richmond has with regards to crime and violence. A lot of murders and homicides have taken place in the Iron Triangle. One of the things, again, I want to do is help demystify that process for a lot of the young people who aren't as civically engaged in that community. I think that this may be an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you can buy dope at wholesale and sell it at retail, that's a transferable skill. I think it's very important to be able to engage those young individuals and people in that community with that in that fashion. I think one of the things that I want to do as a council member is when we're in negotiations with corporate interests and developers, I want to be able to advocate for unrestricted funding for programs like Urban Tilt, for the RISE Center, who do such incredible work in our community. I'm a hard skills development specialist for Rubicon programs. And one of the things that we do is address people's barriers. But one of the difficult things about addressing individuals' barriers is instilling hope and helping them see things from a very moral perspective. Now, I know as a legislative body, you can't legislate morality, but you can, as an individual, serve as an example. You know, when we want our young people to change in this community, when we want people to stop selling drugs and committing crimes, what examples do you have? What models of transition do you have? We can't just talk about it as people, we have to be about it. And I think that it's important to be able to engage everyone, make the city of Richmond an all-inclusive environment. We can't talk about progress and we leave people behind. So I think it's extremely important in the next 10 years that we move in a direction that includes everyone, even those that you might not have the best relationships with. So again, thank you so much, and I appreciate this venue.
I grew up in that same neighborhood, and I'm responsible for some of the crime. But things have changed. I am from Central is what we called it, the Iron Triangle, and I've seen a lot. And I think there's a propensity for the cycle to start over if we don't continue to work on relations between community and law enforcement. I thank God that homicides are down 67%, but I literally bridged and collaborated with various social entities and various other churches and ecumenical societies to come together and volunteer to bridge the gap between the natural enmity between law enforcement and the communities where these crimes were taking place. If we don't work on that relationship and get some better sensitivity training for our police officers, we're sitting on a keg again. And if you don't believe me, read your newspapers. Just go back 3 weeks, go back 4 weeks, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The second thing I'd like to see in the next 10 years is that our expectations for our high school students would change, like 4 years of English, like higher levels of math, so that the jobs we bring in are not just button pushers and lever pullers. We need to treat Richmond and the youth of Richmond as important as they are. We're brilliant. They're brilliant. But we have to raise the bar. The third thing that I would like to see in the next 10 years is a more friendly attitude towards business. I am down the middle. I'm not pro-establishment. I'm not anti-establishment. That means I'm not Chevron. That means I'm not RPA. But I'm not so partisan that I won't receive the truth if it's better for our citizens.
Again, my name is Anthony Creer, and I'm just happy to be here. But my vision of the past 10 years, my actual living out the past 10 years in Richmond, I've seen a steady growth. Good things are happening in Richmond, and I want them to continue. But also, our downtown area is my biggest pet peeve. My downtown area looks just dilapidated. It has no heart, and we've lost consideration for that heart. It seems that our city doesn't trust the citizens of Richmond to enjoy a downtown Richmond. So I'm encouraging everyone here to look to the downtown for new prospects. Encourage other people to go downtown, to build businesses, to be a part of downtown. We have a BART station downtown that has the ability to supply manpower, supply shoppers, and all kinds of things for downtown. I'm looking forward to the downtown being revitalized. My plan for the downtown would be to offer Chevron, to invite Chevron to build a bigger building downtown so that the community has access to it. Also, we have Whole Foods warehouse that's way over off the Parkway, and we'd like to see a Whole Foods store in Richmond somewhere. We'd like to enjoy the benefits of fresh produce everywhere. My daughter loves Forever 21. I'd love to see a Forever 21 downtown Richmond. I mean, we have to really think outside the box when we think of Richmond now. We can't think the same way. If we continue to think the same way, we'll have the same outcome. We'll be here in 2 years from now, and we'll be trying to figure this thing all out again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we've come a long way. We're doing really wonderfully. However, now we're talking about the future, and what are the specifics that we can do. It's important that we continue to move our city to make it livable with more good parks. So one of the things that I support wholeheartedly, not just with a vote, but also with sweat and human equity by going and helping to build the new parks. I helped build Solano. I helped building Garcia Park, and coming up will be Parchester. And I love doing that because when communities have parks, that's what makes Richmond. That's what makes it so. That's what makes people want to live here. Because schools, good parks, good communities. That's what brings businesses. That's what brings people in. So improving the collaboration with the school district. It's important that we can use the schools for community centers. It's important that we encourage academic excellence. One of the things I do with the kids that I work with is I tutor and I mentor, because I believe that it's important that we have an educated community, because when all the jobs come, and they're coming because people want to come and do business in Richmond, when they come, our residents will be able to not just apply for those jobs, but we'll be able to do it. It's important to continue to fight for Doctors Hospital, because we have to have a full service hospital in our community. That's important. We also have to, again, let me back up in terms of training. We have jobs that are coming here, Richmond Bay campus. Our residents have to be ready for that. And I also believe in infill development. We don't need to be building along our parks and our shoreline, because we have lots of room in the downtown area in our city.
Well, thanks again, and really thank you for this question, because I think this is the meat of it. This is what we need to be talking about. What are we going to do for the future of Richmond? What is Richmond going to look like for the next 10 years? So there's a number of things, and it's been alluded to. There are a lot of opportunities right in front of us in Richmond, and we have to just make sure we're taking the best advantage of them. Now, I'm going to start by talking again of a program that I've championed, the Richmond Promise. It lays out a lot of opportunities for us as well, because it guarantees every young person for the next 10 years will have money for college. Now, we can just have that, leave it alone, and make it just money, or we can as a community, engage and make sure we take advantage of that. I know that in a city in Arkansas, when they had the Richmond Promise, the rates of the kids, when they had a promise there, the rates of the kids in that city that graduated and went to college went from 50% to 90%. Well, if they can do 90%, Richmond can do 100%. But that requires us all to be working together. That requires us to put down our political fights and actually figure out how we're going to focus on making sure that all of our young people are achieving where they should be achieving. Now, the other opportunities in front of Richmond, again, some of them have been alluded to already. Obviously, the Richmond Bay campus, the LBNL project, is coming here, and that has the potential to create a lot of jobs, create a lot of economic activity. But if we don't do it right, it could potentially not help us at all. It could just be a place for out-of-town people to come and do their research, but the city of Richmond gets no benefit. So we have to handle that the right way. We have to make sure, and it's tough because UC is not somebody that you can just regulate directly, but we have to make sure that they're using local jobs, that they're hiring local people. We have to make sure that we're getting our young people ready so that they can be eligible to work there. And we have to make sure that that LBNL, when it comes online, is something that is benefiting all of Richmond. And I also agree that we need to focus a lot on the downtown area. That's why I worked to help bring a family-style restaurant into downtown Richmond, which is coming soon, and which I was early in the meetings on to make sure that that happens. So we've got a lot more work to do, and I'm looking forward to the next 10 years in Richmond.
Question, one that is near and dear to my heart, the future, and this is why I'm running. I think strongly we've heard, I think Doctors Medical Center is a key component to whatever we do. To lose healthcare services in our community would be devastating. So all the neighboring cities need to work collectively. And I actually have relationships because I'm on the school board and I work with all the cities that need the use of the hospital. So I think having a conversation about that ongoing is critical. Losing that would be devastating here in the city of Richmond. Second, I think a lot of people need to understand another major issue is the budget. A lot of individuals can discuss or talk about how they're going to move forward, what are they going to do around public safety, what are they going to do around infrastructure, what are they going to do around public work, what are they going to do around environmental steps. But it can't happen if you're running at a deficit. And the city of Richmond right now is running at a huge deficit, and that will even be exacerbated if Measure U doesn't get passed. So obviously, we need to make sure that the health, the fiscal health of the city is critical. One thing that people aren't talking about is something that I'm doing right now with the city is addressing the county assessor who's been aggressive about what's called Proposition 8 reductions and not setting, which is on the sheet, the property taxes to where they need to be. That's critical loss. It's up to 15 to 20% of what should be captured by the city. That's $5 to $10 million every year that can go back to supply services. And I think we have to have a conversation about that and have somebody who understands it. So in terms of the fiscal health, that's something that I pledge to do if given an opportunity to serve. I think that will bring about a lot of the services that you see and want here in the city. I think LBNL, what we have heard about that, making sure that transition happens smoothly so that we can start to revitalize more of the city, bring in a lot of services to support LBNL, as well as develop businesses, because I think Hilltop's an area that needs to happen. Here at 23rd Street, here what we see on McDonald Avenue, those are all critical pieces.
Thank you.
Well, for the next 10 years, I see Richmond moving forward the way that it's been moving forward. I have worked with the youth of Richmond. For instance, Gomper's continuation school painted a mural, and the city asked them to paint it out. And I worked to make them have the privilege of painting it back because they went through all the steps. And so it empowered them to learn the civics system, to learn how it works in order to get what they felt was just. I believe that arts and entertainment is what brings people to Richmond. If you have been to any of the events at the Craneway, you will see that it is becoming a Bay Area venue. The East Bay Center for Performing Arts, also a Bay Area venue. We have the Richmond Arts Center and NIA, which brings people into Richmond. Richmond has had international international artists who have started out here. We have Emmanuel Neary, we have the Diebencourt. So Richmond can become a center again, and by doing so, bringing in business, bringing in more money. There was a charrette done, and they found that 75% of the expendable income of people who lived half a mile on either side of McDonald Avenue spent that expendable income outside of Richmond. What we need to do is to make sure that that income stays in Richmond, and we do that by building more businesses along McDonald Avenue and the other sites so that people can do their shopping here. So infilling is the key to making Richmond prosperous again. Thank you.
My vision is actually your vision. Every 2 years, the city of Richmond participates along with hundreds of other American cities in a community survey. And a lot of information comes out of this survey. You can actually find it on the city's website. We started in 2007. The last one was conducted last year in 2013. But one of the key pieces of information that comes out of it is to assess what people's highest priorities are for the city and for the future. And in the 2013 survey, the community's #1 highest priority was public safety and crime prevention. And, you know, doing community policing and geographic policing is not cheap. It's labor intensive. And my highest priority is to keep our police force intact, keep it funded, and keep those officers out on the street doing that community policing and not zipping around in cars from crisis to crisis. It also takes a lot of other things. It takes a lot of non-traditional methods like the Office of Neighborhood Safety, Operation Ceasefire, and all of the reentry programs that we're now doing to keep that crime down in non-traditional ways. It also takes technology. We have ShotSpotter, we have license plate readers, we have surveillance cameras. People have to monitor all of those to make them work, and it all costs money. So that's the highest priority. Your second highest priority had to do with infrastructure. Your parks, community centers, and most importantly, streets. And that's why I initiated the process that resulted in putting Measure U on the ballot. Measure U is a half-cent sales tax that will be paid, 50% of it will be paid for by people who don't live in Richmond. But all of the benefits will go to Richmond to continue to improve our streets. And the last priority was the environment. Time's up? Okay. You know what the environment is.
I tell you, I'm really excited about what I'm hearing from my colleagues here. They all have great ideas. Don't they have great ideas? Yeah. They have wonderful ideas. That's right. They have wonderful ideas. In the future, I want to see a lot of that come to fruition. I want to see it more than just in a talking scenario. We need to put it to action. And I believe that the leadership is there. I know I have the leadership to bring it together, to steer it forward, and to get it done. More than just talk about it, get it done. Enough talking. And that's where I come from. In everything I've done, everything I've asked to do, I've gotten it done. As a postmaster, as your postmaster, as a police officer, as a commissioner, police commissioner, and certainly as a chaplain. But it starts with, I think somebody reiterated or certainly brought it to fruition, was that you have to be a good listener. And I have no problem listening and seeing the compassion or the seriousness and transparency of what you're trying to get across. A lot of times we throw stuff out there and we don't completely educate or show somebody what we're trying to get across. And that breakdown needs to be mended. We need to bring that closer. Because I know I can do that, and if I can do that to you, whatever the issue is, then I can have, thank you, I can have your support. and I can bring it forward. And we can go from neighborhood to neighborhood, much like community policing is done. We can do that with every issue, whether it's Chevron, whether it's the hospital, whatever it is. And I think Tom said it, he said it best. It's what you want. It's not what I want. I can get it there. I can be a champion, but I serve you. Thank you.
There's no doubt about the fact that we've made some progress in Richmond, and it took someone that is not part of the establishment to make those progress. That was the mayor. She was an outsider when she came in, and she made those progress. Now that's where I come in here. Number one issue here is to have the first comprehensive audit we've done in Richmond here for decades, is to have an audit of every department to figure out which department is doing the right thing, which department is not doing the right thing, and where do we allocate money. That's what we need to do, number one thing here. We have budget issue, everyone is saying that. We have leadership issues, everyone is saying that. So that's where we start. So that's number one. Number two is our port. I've proposed expanding that port to make it more of a global port. That's what communities do. You have a port, you make it work for you. So I intend to expand that port into a more global port, and also take away the control from the city council. I know they love to be in control, but we'll take the control away and establish a port commission that will oversee that. Again, that's number two things here for me. Number three thing I intend to do is to establish a technical high school in Richmond, partnership with the school system. The global market is changing, folks. We can't continue to do the same thing over and over for our young folks and expect them to do something different. So we want to give them an opportunity to compete, give them an opportunity to be successful in life. So that's one of the things I intend to do, is to make them be part of that global market and allow things to work for them. Third thing here is to continue to expand the community policing. But let me remind you, we have over 35% unemployment among our youth. If we don't give them opportunities, that will continue to fluctuate. The crime rate will continue to fluctuate in Richmond. So we gotta be serious about providing them opportunities for them to succeed. Thank you.
So first of all, for the next 10 years, I want to continue to improve quality of life for Richmond residents. Continue to reduce crime, continue to renovate our parks, fix our streets, and make our neighborhoods more livable by, many means, including keeping homeowners in their homes and avoiding foreclosure. I have some specific ideas that were asked for, and in economic development, education, and public health. And in terms of economic development, well, first of all, quality of life brings businesses to a community. But I have some other ideas as well that includes a really attractive state-of-the-art economic development website, so that businesses that are looking at what kind of a one-stop for businesses that are looking to come into Richmond to see what we have to offer and what businesses we already have here, what trends we have going. Also to support our local businesses. We need to keep supporting them with promotion and ad campaigns. We already did one ad campaign, got a San Francisco Business Times to really advertise all the businesses we have in Richmond. We need to do more of that. We need to grow our local expertise. So we have to learn from our businesses what they need, and we have to learn from the community what the community wants from our businesses, and that connection needs to happen. We need to promote our adult education program so that adult education trains people for the jobs that are available. And in terms of education, I want to see community schools implemented, which means that we can fill in the gaps that the school district is not filling in, and we need to do that. The city can play a role with parenting classes, mentoring, training volunteers for the schools. We also can do a commission on education. I know Eduardo suggested that a while back. I think it's a great idea. And Doctors Medical Center. We have to save that hospital. Thank you.
One of the advantages I have is 35 years of experience as your city council member. And as I listen to all of the comments, they're beautiful. They are expressions of what people would like to do. There's a flaw, and that is the budget. We have a $141 million budget with a $134 million revenue, which means that, according to our finance director, Mr. Goins, we're now $6.8 million of deficit. You cannot do any of these ideas or these plans without M-O-N-E-Y. Just as you in your household, you know that you have to operate from a budget. And if you don't operate from a budget, you're going to have serious problems. The second thing that we got to do, other than getting this budget aligned up, is develop some kind of respect on that council. Show some respect for each other. Get that council stable and working as a business. No one is going to come in and invest a dime when you have Jerry Springer shows up there every Tuesday night. You've got to get this council under control with respectability, and collectively we work as a team. This city, it don't belong to the city council, it doesn't belong to the mayor. It belongs to each of you. And you can't sit home every night and watch TV. You've got to get involved. And that's the job of the mayor, is to be inclusive and have each of you that want to be involved, participatory individual, working to improve the quality of life in this city. We can't do it as elected officials. We don't have the time, and certainly we don't have the money. But we have to work together. And as mayor, that is my ambition, to work together to make this city collectively one in which all of you can be a part of and be respected of. Thank you.
Well, once again, Courtney Bouze here, and you know you always hear my name, but I'm going to tell you what I represent in the next 10 years. It's not the complexion of your skin, it's the quality of your life. That's what I represent. And when I see people like John out there in the back, Nancy up here in the front that I've been working with when she was trying to get the Islamic play line together, these are things we have to do. Ladies and gentlemen, there's not a person up here can hang with me, because when you had crime in the city of Richmond, Tent City, remember that? I'm the one that went out there and put Tent City together to stop some of this crime that they're benefiting by right now. Let's talk about the seniors. Not one person talked about what we're going to do with the seniors. I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing with the seniors and make sure they get a piece of the action. Terminal number 1, ladies and gentlemen, brought you a $200 million project, 5 years of employment, and the only thing Tom Budd could say was, well, you got your clothes cleaned and it cost the city money. But you know what, 5 years a job, $200 million, and they gave this council $500,000 up front, non-refundable. Let's talk about the Richmond Bill program. I am the only person that spoke in front of Richmond Bill, requested by Richmond Bill citizens more than anybody else. I got $200,000 for the Richmond Bill program to keep it going, as well as the youth bill. That's what I'm going to be doing for the next 10 years. Cutting, and then also our streets. We need to get our streets together. Councilmember Butt talked about the budget, and we also have to bring more businesses in. Without businesses, we can't develop money. And we can't develop money to make it. And again, I want you to tell your friends and neighbors, I'm voting against Measure U. You don't need another tax. If you do, it's got to have a sunset clause on it, and it's not there. You know why people come to Richmond? Because it's easy. This tax will not be easy, because I will fight it tooth and nail, so that you know, when you vote for it, look at your tax bill that's coming up now. You'll see all those on the other side. Add Measure U to it. You got even more taxes to pay. Seniors can't afford it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Now we'll get into the questions, and we have Jim Hansen, who has been collecting the cards, and he will read the questions. Some of them will be directed to specific candidates, and then there's some that maybe we'll have a few people answer.
1 minute? We only have 30 minutes left.
Well, we're going to need the answers to be as brief as possible, so maybe about 1 minute.
Okay.
Got the wrong people here then.
Excuse me?
Okay, thank you. My name is Jim Hansen, and full disclosure, I'm from a couple of it's over, but I've been invited to crash the block party occasion. So anyway, I was enlisted to read the questions today. So you have some of these that are directed to individuals on the candidates on the form tonight, and several of these were addressed as broader issues. So I'll save those to the last, and I think Shakuro has an idea how to handle that. So the first one is to Eduardo Martinez, and so the question is, Richmond has multi-million-dollar newly constructed schools under construction. What do you plan to do as a city council person to get the broader Richmond access, specifically neighborhoods close to the new schools?
As I mentioned before, I would like to set up an education commission so that the citizens of Richmond will have more direct access to how the schools are being used within the Richmond city limits. Being on the Rec and Parks Commission, I worked with the school district to set up a joint use program so that the city and the school district could use each other's properties. I would like to embellish on that by creating community schools so that the schools are open to the public and so that people can come to the schools and have programs for parenting, for ESL classes, and for more activities with multi-generational. So I could go on, but I realize that we're short on time.
Thank you. This is for Mr. King. What hopes and concerns do you have with regard to Chevron's role in Richmond?
So, I think that Chevron has the potential to be a good neighbor. I think that many residents of the city of Richmond are not pleased with Chevron and how they engage our community. I think I don't have hopes for Chevron, right? I have hope for the city of Richmond. My thing is to be an advocate for the residents. I think that what the council needs is pragmatism. And I think that I can be extremely pragmatic when I receive information. I like to process it. I like to deal with the truth. I like to deal with the facts. And I think that what Richmond needs is a community leadership that educates and empowers its residents. And I think that all too often our citizens find out about critical issues at the midnight hour. And to be a leader, I think that we have a responsibility not only to represent you, but also to inform you. So my hope is, as a city council member, when it comes to issues concerning Chevron, I will work diligently to inform you.
Well, as I'm reading these, people of Richmond ask very direct questions. So this is their opportunity, and I've been given the mic to do that. So here goes. So here's a card asking Mr. Al Martinez to talk about why he was asked to leave the Richmond Police Department in 1983.
Thank you. Very good question. I wasn't asked to leave. I chose to retire and resign and go into executive management with the United States Postal Service once given that opportunity. As I mentioned already, that once I got into the Postal Service, I was the quickest leader to become postmaster for the United States Postal Service within 8 years. After 7 years of managerial leadership and extensive leadership with the Postal Service, and went on to be a postmaster in 3 different cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, here's a question for Henry Washington. What are your thoughts about the current public housing crisis?
Yeah, that was a fastball, chest high. I think it's terrible. I'm sorry, David. I think it's terrible, and I think from outside of Richmond not blew the whistle and got it published in the San Francisco Chronicle, we wouldn't be doing anything at all. And I'm not sure that the right things are being done now. It's not just the deplorable living conditions at RHA around mold, pests, bed bugs, and so on and so on and so forth. It's a lack of maintenance. It's a lack of oversight. And as we look towards RHA, we see a history of not hitting the mark of excellence. Now we have a new secretary over HUD over the last 6 months. So there's a backlog. So our RAD application that we filed with HUD to try to get some relief in rental support and some relief for moderate rehabilitation of the units and the ability to get Section 8 vouchers is all going to be suspended based on the new administration. In moving forward, I think that housing for single head of household mothers, the seniors, economic, educational, and ethnic minorities should be better maintained, and we shouldn't throw people away. One day these people are going to vote.
Thank you. This is a question for Mr. Rheem. If elected, what would be your part on helping the community centers to receive more funding? Certainly. If elected, what would be your part on helping the community centers to receive more funding?
I've actually been in nonprofit for about 20 years in terms of my ongoing involvement in the field of nonprofit. I think I have extensive relationship there, both on the local level, the Bay Area, and on national level. And I've worked with the White House Business Council and Business Majority for about a year now. So I have some relationship in Washington that obviously can help our community as we continue to grow. That's really what this leadership is all about. It's all about bringing the relationship you have outside here to help our businesses here grow. And that's what I intend to do.
Mr. Bates, this is a direct question for you. Chevron has supported your campaign with $1.3 million in contributions. How does this influence your positions?
Well, it has no effect upon my position. And as far as the $1.6 billion, it's my understanding that the money is divided up among several candidates. So I don't see the influence upon whether to influence me or not. I have always voted my independent conscience, whether it's for or against Chevron. So my position with anyone who contributed large sums of money toward my campaign is I would be respectful and I would at least listen to what they have to say. And I assure you, if I'm elected mayor, one of the first things I'm going to do is sit down with the president of Chevron and work with him to have a coexistence, respectful relationship between Richmond and Chevron. I'm not going to be adversarial like our previous mayor, and more important, for a mayor who's been in office for 7 3/4 years, never having sat down with the president of Chevron to discuss mutual problems. No, they're the largest taxpayer in this city, and I will respect them as I would Google, Microsoft, or whomever else. So I don't see the correlation with what kind of money they contribute in this campaign. I will respect them and I will work with them to the best of my ability.
Thank you. We have several questions that are addressed to mayors and several people in the audience. So what we thought we would do is just list the general topics and Shakura. Okay. So, and then anybody who hasn't had an opportunity to respond to a specific question, just raise a hand and I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to hit those. So I'm going to try to read those just briefly. And here's a question, just basically a comment on the cost of transportation. Getting every day using the bus and BART is basically very expensive, and if anybody has any thoughts on that. And also, what will you do for the safety of children in the city? Here's a question that is basically about, I think, a comment that was brought up, the great amount of expendable household income that leaves Richmond. Do you have a specific idea or program to capture some of that income and keep it here? Okay. The follow-up question on the problem of foreclosed and abandoned homes. Why not push the banks to fix or sell? Several years ago, there was a plan to improve 23rd Street, the same as McDonald and downtown. What is your plan to make these changes happen? And a question about, has anyone had their campaign materials printed in Richmond? Okay, I'll go ahead and read this one. If a community such as Google or Apple wanted to host a major conference in Richmond next year, what would you tell them about Richmond to attract their business? And I assume, what would you actively do to make it land here? Okay. Basically, there's several questions that came in about improving the opportunities for jobs here.
Too many questions.
So we think that probably all of you could answer these questions, of course, but in the interest of time, if you've already answered a question, please allow another candidate to answer. And please choose a particular question that you'd like to answer. Anthony?
Again, capturing income that leaves Richmond, I know all about that. Like I said, the downtown area is suffering. If we create a really good shopping district downtown Richmond in the area, that would capture a lot of income that's leaving. That would capture so much income, it would be pathetic. Also on the child safety. Again, I'm the type of person, we got a lot of parks. There's no rec center in either one of them. We need several rec centers in those parks, manned by a person at least 8 hours a day on a weekend. That's a job, and that's an opportunity for a child to be safe and have fun at a park. You can't just build a park and leave it vacant. These days, you need a caretaker there that's there all the time. Also, someone who's sensitive to children issues. And again, thanks. That's it. I won't take up any more time. Thank you. I have a lot of I could go on and on, but thank you.
So I'll answer the one about safety of children, what would I do, and what do I think about the cost of AC transit. I think the cost of AC transit is ridiculous. It's supposed to be, when you talk about public transportation, that's supposed to be a way, a means of people to get around and get to their schools and jobs, etc. So what can I do? Well, we, as a city, don't have power over AC transit, but what can we do as a result? Well, one of the things that I've done, policies that I brought to the City Council, is to increase the minimum wage. Because when people have a little bit money, then whatever AC transit does, people will be able to afford to get to work, they'll be able to get to school. And with regard to the safety of children, the school right down on Mariposa, was it the Christian Academy? principal was talking about how cars was just speeding up and down that street, and it was just a danger to the kids that their parents were coming to pick them up. And I contacted our staff, and they put a speed bump in there. He was appreciative because now the kids and the families are a lot safer. Same thing with Barrett Avenue. The community said that it's not safe for kids crossing the street. We need more crosswalks on Barrett Avenue. And as a result of, again, collaborating with the community, sat down with the staff, and now there are more crosswalks on Barrett for our children to cross the street. And I'll stop there, but please, well, I'll stop there. You can always check out my website to see how other ways that I've been helping to keep our community safe by having people have more money in their pockets.
Thank you. There were a lot of good questions there too, but I also want to answer the transportation one because I think it's a really important question. You know, folks have to be able to have access to public transportation to get to their jobs, to their schools, to their place of worship, etc. I'm happy to serve on the WICTAC board as one of the city's representatives, and we're always constantly working on new ways here in West County to make it more affordable for people who are taking public transportation, as opposed to just trying to speed up the freeway. I think in other parts of the county they just want to worry about how you speed up the freeway, but I think in West County and on our WICTAC board we made a real priority of figuring out how we use most of the funds that we do get on public transit and how we use those funds to make sure that people have better access and make sure that young people in particular get free bus passes and whatnot. Another important issue, and it's been ridiculed a little bit and hasn't talked about a lot recently, and specifically when we were talking about the community investment proposal that we did with Chevron, is this Easy Go Richmond project as well as Electric City. And these programs get ridiculed. They're important for the environment, but they're also important for transportation. Easy Go, if we do it right, can be a connectivity thing for our entire city, where we make sure that anybody has the ability to get where they need to get without using the car. That's the idea behind it. Now, we have to get it right. Other cities have car share programs and things like that. Easy Go encompasses some of that. It also encompasses figuring out how we connect people to public transit as well. So making sure that we implement that Easy Go Richmond project the right way can also have great benefits for folks who are dependent on public transportation as well.
The question that you asked was about the money leaving the city of Richmond. The reason that the money leaves the city of Richmond is because people don't come here and shop. And Measure U is one of the problems with that tax. The other part of that is you look at a situation like we have a council that can't get together and resolve our problem before we sit down at the council and those businesses watch that. That in turn goes along with the Richmond Bill program. If you don't have, and I'm a businessman, Tom Buck claims he's the only businessman, but he don't know what he's talking about. I had a business for years here. If you can't hire people to work in your facility, you won't bring your business here. You need employees that you can hire. And so, coupled with all that, give me an example. Just last Tuesday night, I brought forward a way to have Doctors Hospital stay open, and it was taken away by the mayor, big mockery, and they voted for it, and tried to make me look bad. But you know what she did in the end? She took $150 million from the Promise program. They had $35 million. Now they only have $25 million because they have $20 million because she took, if we do this right, she took $15 million. You're talking about how do you educate your kids? If you take $15 million and you don't have enough money to educate the kids with the $35 million, promising them to go to college, and you take half of that away, I don't know, that's what happens why our money's not here. So we have to learn to work together. We have to learn to be, put our personalities aside and learn to make Richmond a better place. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Just on the issue around what we do to make sure kids are safe, I think that we've addressed it. I've always been puzzled by people's belief that the facility program has not been beneficial to the community. It's been incredibly beneficial. We have safe schools now. We've reduced expulsions. We've been able to make sure that kids have windows that they can see out of, that they've been able to have play spaces that they can utilize, and have a much greener community. So in their community centers being built in every one of the schools, at the Leadership Gompers site is going to be a huge community play area, and for seniors and for other people to use for any programs free of charge. We also partnered with the city. I want to thank all of the council members here for keeping the schools open, because in exchange for that, at no net cost to the city, this swim center at Kennedy High is being built right now for $9 million because of the partnership that we have with the city. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities. We have to strengthen Park and Rec. We have to make sure that we have after-school programs, and we have to have individuals willing to go to AC Transit, willing to go to Zach Millay at the BART board, and tell them how important it is to try to keep costs down in terms of BART fees and AC Transit fees. We do it with our kids in school because we have no school buses for our kids. So we have to work with them every day to ensure that they get to school, and we have negotiated almost free of charge for kids on free and reduced lunch to give free bus passes, or once at significant discounts. So I just think that this community has been great working with the kids and making sure it's happening. I just thank everybody for the work that they've done.
Thank you. At this point, I think everybody on the dais has answered a question. No?
I don't think
Gail,
so.
you did? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so Tom and Gail.
And Gail,
Well, I'm gonna talk a little bit about jobs and economic development. I think I'm the only person up here who's actually held a Richmond business license for 41 years.
I have a Richmond business license too.
Not for 41 years.
No, but I have.
Too young. So, you know, Richmond, I actually spent a lot of time surveying businesses that have come to Richmond to find out why they came here. And there are three things I found in common. Richmond still has the least expensive real estate and the least expensive commercial leasing levels of almost any place in the San Francisco Bay Area. Richmond also has phenomenal access to transportation with Amtrak, BART, AC Transit, 2 freeways, and it's located centrally in the Bay Area. And it's a combination of these two things that has brought most businesses to Richmond. You know, a good example is Nutiva. Nutiva makes high-end, environmentally attractive food products. They were in Southern California, and they found out their market was primarily in Marin and Berkeley. So they looked around. Here was Richmond, right between Marin and Berkeley, and they could get cheaper rent here or rent a big warehouse than they could anywhere else. So they just popped right up here. They employ, I think, a couple of hundred people. And that's an example of what people come to. But there's a third area that's absolutely critical, and that's the quality of life. Businesses are concerned about crime, they're concerned about safety, and they also want their employees to come to a place where they've got amenities. You know, these days employees are looking for more than just a paycheck. They want to have recreational opportunities in Richmond. They come here to enjoy the parks, to enjoy the big trail, to enjoy the Greenway, to enjoy the new restaurants that are opening. And so it's those three things that bring people here. Quality of life, cost, and access to transportation in the greater Bay Area. And these are the things we have to concentrate on. We don't have much ability to tweak the first two, but the quality of life is the one thing we can deal with. And if we take care of that, then businesses will come here, jobs will be created, revenue will be the result of it, and Richmond will be a better place.
So I'm going to address a couple of the issues: safety of children, foreclosures, and maybe touch on 23rd Street. So safety of our children is really paramount to any community. And renovating our parks is essential, and that's what we've renovated. A third of them already. We need to continue to renovate them with a sense of community ownership. In many of our parks, neighborhoods have really ensured that, and we need to keep that going, participation in our park renovations. We also need to, when it comes to safety of our children, make sure our air is clean and we have safety from accidents and incidents. Like, if you all recall, in 2012 we had a horrendous fire from Chevron where 15,000 people went to their local hospitals, our local hospitals, for respiratory ailments. Well, children were having to be snatched from playing outdoors, playing in our parks, and their parents had to bring them home because everyone had to shelter in place. So that's why we're suing Chevron. We're suing Chevron because they have truly put us at risk, and we're continuing to be at risk, and we need to change that. We need to oversee them to make sure that the safest refinery is built, and we need to make sure they put the health and safety of our community before their corporate profits. Now, contrary to what Councilmember Bates thinks, I have met with Chevron on several occasions. The difference is I meet with them and I stand up for our community. I don't roll over for what they want. We have to be strong. I'm on the ad hoc Chevron committee with Councilmember Bates, and we've met with them several times. I met with them separately in my office. I've met with them in the refinery. But I stand up for them, for our community. We coexist, but with them understanding that they have to do right by us. In terms of foreclosures, we already have a program that vacant homes are being renovated and to be sold at affordable rates to our affordable prices to our homeowners or to homeowners that are looking to live in Richmond. But we also need to keep homeowners who are already in their homes in the pipeline of foreclosure. We need to keep them in their homes and helping them to do that with the CARES program by reducing their principal. And lastly, we need to help 23rd Street businesses. I've heard from them that they want better landscaping, more trees. We can do this, better streetscaping. We can really improve that for all our businesses and bring in more businesses with those same kind of qualities to make their businesses attractive here in the city of Richmond.
We actually have about 5 minutes left, and now we can take direct questions from the audience. Would anybody here like to pose a question or make a comment? Yes?
There's two Martinez.
Which Martinez? Eduardo?
Okay, and what was the question again?
What's your position on doctor's hospital opening?
What's your position on doctor's
hospital?
Okay,
well, I think Doctors Medical Center is a issue that needs the cooperation of the coalition, of the county, and all the cities that benefit from services from DMC. I think that all of these entities need to work together to provide funding to keep it open until we find a viable financial solution. And I think one of those financial solutions is to have the hospital incorporate into the county system. And after they do that, have the county pass a utility users tax on the refineries that are within the county, so that there is a steady income to keep the hospital open. Also, the hospital needs to team up with other hospitals and universities to become a training hospital, and by doing so, get extra rates in terms of the return from the Medicare.
Okay, someone has just given a suggestion that the candidates could take like a 15-second wrap-up. and make a statement.
30 seconds.
Or 15, 30 seconds.
I'll even keep time.
Someone here has raised their hand. What did you want to
30
say?
seconds, keep time.
And maybe their close wrap-up statements can also address that.
This is actually for Mr. Bates and Mr. Bouzet. Both of you seem very, very negative tonight. Mr. Bates, he specifically referred to a couple of things as stupid in action. Mr. Bouzet, you have come here and said very, very strongly that you don't support Measure U without seeming to realize that there might be a reason why people might support Measure U. And so, we've talked a lot about, there's been a lot of negative campaigning and things are going to be good, and people are going to work together. And for the two of you, to be honest, specifically, will you be able to do that? So that is my question.
Okay, so maybe we can start at this end with just a 30-second wrap-up if you want to
No, she said
address.
Bates and I, so I think that both of us, that was directed to us. Ma'am, I think your question was, why am I against Measure U?
Part of my question, sir.
Okay, part of your question. Why am I against Measure U? If you would like a tax that is forever, that's fine with me. But as an elected official, it is my fiduciary responsibility to look at all taxes the way that they're set. So therefore, if there was no sunset clause, meaning that if we don't go back and look at it 2 years or 5, you'll be paying that tax forever and the money's going in the general fund.
Mr. Bouzet, I get that. What I'm asking you is, can you understand why I or someone else might support Measure U? Can you understand why
Yeah, I think you could.
anyone else might
I do.
support a bike lane without calling it
I understand why you support Measure U, because you're uninformed. And that's why hold on. Let me make sure I say that properly. And that's what I'm saying. As far as I'm concerned, you're uninformed about it. So therefore, I'm trying to inform you. You can make your choice of whether you want to vote for it or not. But I think your main question is about bike lanes.
My question.
I think your main question is about bike lanes. Let's go to bike lanes. Let's go to bike lanes. You drive a car?
I do, sir.
Okay. How often do you drive your car a week?
Every day, sir.
Every day, okay. So, have you been down Barrett lately?
I drive that every single day, sir. You are not going to win this one with me.
You got it.
Well, I'll just be brief. I just didn't call the shots like I see them. And I thought the idea was very stupid when you go forward with a project that you don't include the very people that it affects.
But, sir,
And,
children aren't supposed to call other people's ideas
well,
stupid.
that's your opinion. I'm just calling the shot just like I see it. If it's a stupid idea, it's a stupid idea. And I still maintain that the bike lane could have been more appropriately designed where you'd have both the traffic and the bike sharing the lane near to the curb. You wouldn't have had the traffic jam. And people talk about, you want to cut down the emission. What about the cars that are parked waiting and continue to emit toxins? Nobody doesn't seem to care about that. But if you're really environmentally, you would want that the traffic to continue to move as rapidly as it could, recognizing the bike lane. And I guarantee you, if you take a look, other than Saturdays and Sundays, you will not see 10 or 12 bikes a day on Barrett Avenue, nor 23rd Street, nor 37th Street. Just drive down there and I'd like you to count how many times.
And I agree with you, but there's a different way to talk about it.
Well,
You're talking about specifics, you're talking about facts, you're not just saying it's
don't listen to the messenger, just listen to the message.
Well, I think that actually now that it's even a little past 9, we're going to adhere to our original schedule and adjourn at 9 o'clock. And thank you all very much